so much, Shavana, and I must say it is so wonderful to be here and to be joining CHOGM 2022 here in Rwanda. And I want to also recognize that CHOGM is taking place during Pride Month. For those who do not know, Pride Month, Pride is celebrated by the queer community, LGBTI persons, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex community. And I speak as a Black, proud lesbian woman in front of you. We need to overcome homophobia and transphobia. But to do so, it requires us not only just to change the legislation framework, it requires us to change the attitude, cultural valuations, politics, social will. But it also requires us to have that political will. Are we ready to utilize mechanisms that are empowering us, whether as governments, whether as legislatures, whether as judiciary? Are we ready to really do so? I want to say, understand the vulnerabilities, understand inequalities that many LGBTI experience. The exclusion, limitation of service, human rights violation, socioeconomic issues, and societal institutions must be understood alongside. It is due to LGBTI activists, which I want us to recognize. There is a delegation of TCEN, the Commonwealth Equality Network. If they can stand up, they come from different countries, different regions in the Americas, Caribbean, here in Africa, Pacific Island, Europe, and they continue to fight and champion what we call justice. And if many of you are ready for equality, you will stand with us. Let there be justice for all. Let there be peace for all, freedom for all. Let there be equality for all. We are better together. And if we understand the African philosophy, I am because you are. Thank you so much.
In my understanding of gender equality, I first of all understand gender as inclusive of all of the diverse genders. So when I'm talking about gender, I'm not just talking about the binary genders of male and female, I'm talking about gender in its entirety.
I think we've got a long way to go on gender equality and LGBT equality. There are places in the world where it's still illegal to be gay or trans. There are places in the world where women still face barriers to education and accessing healthcare and jobs. So we've got a long way to go to achieve equality for people who face barriers to that.
Well, I think some countries are more progressive than others. Others can do better. And other countries are also still way behind. And I think we need to accept the reality.
I think my view is more of, what it means, the equality, you know. So the equality should be for all, you know. And if we speak about the equality, it should mean, the equality itself. So what the meaning of that? So it should also, bring that gender, bring those women together in all their diversity, including despite their sexual orientation or gender identity. Like, for example, people living with disability, LGBT people and others who were still left behind when it comes to the discussion of gender equality.
So it's important to talk about some of the controversial issues like reparations. People seemed very uncomfortable with that discussion. It was brushed aside. So I brought it up again to let people know that reparations is critical, particularly if we're to move forward, especially if we're looking at states that are particularly vulnerable to climate crises, for example, when we know that there are some countries that are really contributing to climate change and facilitating or catalyzing disaster, while smaller states with less resources are experiencing the impact. It means that those countries need to put more into funds to help us to mitigate and to adapt to climate crises.
Every country now, I'm sure, most of the countries under the Commonwealth have LGBTIQ plus organizing of some sort. Even if it's not formal, we have groups, we have collectives, talk to people, talk to activists, talk to communities, and in that way we can collaborate. Yes, it was helpful. I've made contacts, I've made networks. I met a few Kenyans here. I met delegates from around the world. I was able to interact with some of my colleagues from different parts of the world, from the Caribbean, from Europe, and exchange ideas and exchange learning. So definitely, it was a good learning experience. Yeah.
I think that I've learned a lot from the Rwandans and how they do great work. The LGBTI organisations that I've met here who are really working in amazing contexts, doing really valuable work, building partnerships. So there's a lot from us in the UK to learn from that. It's also great to engage with the other people around the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth is not a great place for LGBTI people. We know that all of the countries of the world that still criminalise LGBTI lives, a majority of those are in the Commonwealth. So we have challenges to make the Commonwealth a fairer and better place. But the people that I've met here in Rwanda, those people will make work of that challenge. They will get the job done.
I think what can be done, in my opinion, is that it's really the time of looking at what we speak and make it in action. If we say human rights for all, or we should respect the human rights for all. So we mean it. We mean it. We respect. If we can't, if we think we are not ready to really respect the fact somebody have born differently, or this person is a lesbian or gay, or left behind in sort kind of conversation, then that means that there's no achievement of that human right that gender equality we are speaking about, or the human right doesn't apply for all when it comes to always sort of conversation that are left behind.
I think my takeaway is that there is commitment. There are many countries, there are many prime ministers, presidents who have heard, who are willing and who are prepared. But there's also others who needs to be taken along. If we can take even those who are marginalized and those who are vulnerable in all their diversity along with us, we can bring about change within the Commonwealth state. And we don't forget people living with disability. We don't forget people living with HIV. We don't forget LGBTI people, we don't forget women, we don't forget everybody in their diversity, we take them along.
So today was an opportunity for different civil society representatives from the People's Forum to sit with foreign ministers and foreign affairs ministers from different parts of the Commonwealth and talk about our issues in line with the different themes of this year's People's Forum. And so we talked about issues related to climate change, health inequities, and as well as an inclusive society. I've used this as an opportunity to raise the fact that 35 out of 54 countries within the Commonwealth continue to criminalize consensual same-sex relations between adults. And I asked them very clearly, when will the Commonwealth take a progressive stance on this issue to decriminalize so that we have more inclusive societies and so that we can tackle discrimination against LGBTQ plus communities across the Commonwealth?
In the room, people seemed to be very receptive, and afterwards a couple of people came and said that they really appreciated the points that were made about consultation and about thinking about the different experiences of different kinds of people and the need to focus in particular on women, on LGBTQI plus people, on people who are migrants, who have disabilities, who live in rural areas, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of it. We know that a lot of times in these spaces we have conversations, we get really excited, everyone goes back home, and not a whole lot happens. So I think it's going to be on all of us. That includes civil society as well as governments and Commonwealth institutions to ensure that these conversations continue, but not just continue in the same way, but move toward action developed from the ideas that we've been sharing in the space. I want us to think about these thematic areas beyond just the intersections of the issues and think about the people who are having these experiences and the people who need specific resources, specific services to move them toward equality, and to move on from talking about us as though we're just a homogenous group, because women are not a homogenous group, LGBTQI plus people are not a homogenous group. We have intersecting identities, so people who have more money tend to have more access and have more power. People who have less have more difficulty with accessing housing, accessing healthcare. For example, a lot of queer people aren't even able to be on their partner's health insurance. And if governments aren't providing free health services across the board, that presents a challenge.
Well, I think what all of us want for LGBT people is for us to have an equal access to the opportunities that everyone else has access to. We do not want to be criminalized. We want to be able to live our lives openly and honestly and freely.